Good morning, ma'am. Good morning, classmates. I am Liza Castañeda. I will be reporting differentiated instruction today. So, let's define differentiated instruction. Differentiating instruction may mean teaching the same material to all using of a student's variety of instructional strategies, or it may require the teacher to deliver the lessons at varying levels of difficulty based on the ability to each student. So in here is to recognize students' varying background knowledge, readiness, language, preference in learning, interest, and to react responsibly. Next is the intent of differentiating instruction is to maximize each student's growth and individual success by meeting each student he or she is and assisting in the learning process. So, differentiated instructions is a process to approach teaching and learning for students of differing abilities in the same class. Next is differentiated instruction aims to improve learning outcomes, increase engagement, inspire a love of learning, increase self-awareness, and help students more efficiently and with deeper understanding. So, differentiation means tailoring instruction to meet individual needs. Next is teachers can differentiate to content, process, product, and environment. Then, according to students' readiness, interest, and learning profile. So, each student comes to school with diverse learning needs, and teachers are being asked to satisfy those needs based on various factors: a student's home language and culture, student prerequisite skills and knowledge, and learning styles to support teachers in delivering a high quality instructional program that meets the needs of all learners. Educators are turning to differentiated instruction. Next is 4 ways to differentiated instruction. Content, what the student needs to learn or how the student will get access to the information. Content of what individuals learning, of what the students individuals learning. Example of differentiating content: using reading materials at varying readability levels. Another example is using spelling, vocabulary, or vocabulary list at readiness levels of students. The second one is process. Process, it means activities in which the student engage in order to make sense of or the master content. In process of what of how they are learning it. Example in process: providing interest centers that encourage students to explore subsets of the class topic of particular interest to them. And the third one is products, culminating projects that ask the student to rehearse, apply, and extend what he or she has learned in a unit. In product, way of demonstrating that learning has happened. Example, giving students options of how to express required learning. Create a puppet show, write a letter, or develop a mural with labels. Another example, using rubrics that match and extend students' varied skills levels. And the last one is learning environment, the way the classroom works and feels in the learning environment in which learning happens. Example, making sure there are places in the room to work quietly and without distraction, as well as places that invite student collaboration. Another example, providing materials that reflect a variety of cultures and home settings. Next is these curriculum related factors are based on student need in 3 areas. The first is readiness. Students' preparation for learning specific information or skills. And the second one is interest. What appeals to students and thus motivates them to learn. And the last one is learning profile. of how students approach the task of learning. Um, Teachers can differentiate at classroom elements based on students' readiness, interest, or learning profile. Next is why differentiated instruction. So, classrooms are filled with students who have different needs, come from different educational backgrounds, have different attention spans and interests, have different language abilities, and have different cultural background. So, in here, because not all the students will not learn the same material within the same time period. Next is differentiated instruction allows us to give students the support they need instead of lumping them together in one big group. Smaller groups make it easier to see who has mastered the lesson goals and has acquired the skills to move on. And larger class sizes make it more difficult to zero in on individual student needs. It is important to recognize that differentiated instruction is an approach to teaching, not simply a collection of strategies or activities. Effective differentiation requires ongoing evaluation of students' needs and conscious attention to designing instructional activities and assessment to meet those needs. Next is content may be modified for students who need additional practice with essential elements before moving on. However, the expectation is that modification in other areas will ultimately allow all students to master the same key content. Next is effective differentiation. Requires ongoing evaluation of students' needs and conscious attention to designing instructional activities and assessment to meet those needs. It is true that teachers must have an extensive repertoire of research-based instructional strategies at hand, but they must also be able to think outside the box to ensure that each student needs are met. So in here, the goal of differentiated instruction is to create learning opportunities that make allowances for difference in how individual students learn in order to ensure equal access to important academic content. And the last slide, thus differentiated instruction is not the same as individualized instruction. Every student is not learning something different. They are all learning the same thing but in different ways. So in here, so every student does not need to be taught individually. Differentiating instruction is a matter of presenting the same task in different ways and at different levels so that all students can approach in their own ways.